If you're going to spend 3 hours a week in this thing, you'd better be getting some return on that time investment that you spend in there, right? I tend to avoid those things, or at least, mark it whenever we see it and say, hey, there may be a compromise or something in one of these units if you decide you want to go with this. Yeah, number one thing is heater layout, because the design of the sauna is never going to be replaced by just bigger power supply necessarily. You could do it with a cabin that's too big, so you have too much cubic footage. It takes a long time to heat up. You put a bigger power supply in there, it kind of fixes it. But if you look at FLIR footage, you'll understand blue zones, and when you understand blue zones, you see areas of the body that aren't subjected to heat. Now we're trying to overcome cold areas. That's not going to work. So the number one thing really is heater layout and making sure that you have far infrared in those areas. So when you look at a sauna, like, not to pick on any particular brands, but when you look at an Impulse, or you look at a Sanctuary, or you look at anything that has a mixture of heater types, those far infrared panel areas that have cutouts where they have light therapy, or they put patio heaters or near infrared emitters or window. Yeah, that's why corner saunas, notoriously, they take 10 minutes longer to heat up. You have a beautiful glass in the front. It looks cool, but you're giving up that heater zone for the glass. So I don't think people look at that. But if you were to scan one of those saunas with a FLIR gun, you're going to see it right away. You're going to see it instantly. So you've got blue zones now. You've got cold zones in places where you should have direct heat targeted toward the body. Just type in Matt Justice FLIR footage, F-L-I-R. FLIR is just a thermographic style heat gun, and it just shows you, I didn't start using them for saunas, I started using them for construction. So if you have a leak in the roof, it's very easy to scan and see where the water is behind the walls without tearing them open. Just like in saunas, it's very easy for us to tell where the heat accumulation is and where the lack of it is. So when you watch some of that, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. And then your mind will immediately correlate, oh, it's a blue zone. Most saunas have a ton of blue zones. Well, if you have a blue zone, what's happening to the body? Nothing. You're waiting for the convection to kick in because there's no other heat source in that particular area. So your body has no choice but to wait on it. And just based on the design of the sauna, you're giving up something. Now, does it mean they don't work at all? No. But if you're looking for optimal performance, that's probably not going to be it. Because somewhere else in that mixture, it has to compensate for that. People thinking chromotherapy is going to have some meaningful photobiomodulation benefit. It's mood lighting. Everyone wants to post these charts that say, oh, color light therapy, does this and affects mood and all that. Well, that's great. But it's not correlated to PubMed research, where there's an actual research study for something like TBI, where a 600 nanometer, 800 nanometer wavelength, what the hell was that? Where one of those wavelengths creates a direct result in a TBI patient at a set distance, treatment, length, intensity, all that stuff. Color lights in the ceiling is never going to replicate. So like when the sales agents and stuff say, oh, make sure it has chromotherapy so you can pick the color, that you want and all this stuff. Well, that's great, but they kind of blend the lines a little when it comes to the red. Yeah, thinking that you're getting red light therapy from a full spectrum heater too. I call them patio heaters, but it's a quartz halogen emitter. It's got a peak wavelength of like 650 or 1680, I think, nanometers. Most of the PubMed research for, photobiomodulation improvement is 600 nanometer, 800 nanometer. There's some 1050, but nothing that high, because when you get into that high of a wavelength, now you're producing more heat. You're going to start increasing your core temperature, which is going to change how the red light's going to impact or react with the body anyway. But you're also getting away from the beneficial red light wavelength altogether. It's not present anymore. Well, yeah, look at the catastrophe that's going on right now with the heavenly heat stuff. Hey, I don't know what's going on. I didn't build them. I wasn't there watching them put them together. But, people freaking out because it looks like, wood glue or something like that. But then when they ask me, they get upset because I'm like, well, the least of my worries would be the wood glue. I'm looking for other adhesives that are generally going to off-gas. But I have a lot of woodworking experience. I used to build cabinetry in a little warehouse factory. My buddy would cut out parts for us on a CNC machine. Most wood glue is like food safe, meaning if we swallowed a couple tablespoons of it, you're not going to die. Like if a baby gets a hold of it, rips the cap off, starts drinking it or something, not going to kill you. In the same way that, like, I would actually prefer, and I've said this before, people don't like it though, I would prefer a sauna that is assembled where the wall joinery has wood glue. Because if I move houses, or if I want to throw that thing in a pickup truck or a U-Haul or something like that, I don't want the panels coming apart just because, it's brad nailed together and doesn't have any glue because of some, safety thing. I've been around a lot of stuff. I've built my own boxes for heat therapy before. I have zero concerns about wood glue behind a mitered joint because the temperature in the cabin is only rising to 150, 160 degrees. And it's never going to penetrate inside that joint at a temperature that will make that pliable again. Now, if that were to happen, then I would be concerned. You want to focus on the spray adhesives because those are difficult to get away from. Those become pliable at a much lower temperature. Like, I know people say, well, I looked up the specs of the Type-On wood glue and it says that it'll become pliable at like 170, whatever the temperature is, right? But that's open air. That's not like concealed in a tight joint that's been clamped. I know that if I built an enclosure and the wood became pliable again, it would no longer have adhesion, meaning the enclosure is going to fall apart if it's pliable again. So I've never seen that happen. So I don't have concern that like the actual chemistry of the glue is changing after it's cured. Maybe if it was 300 degrees in the box, then as it heats up through the wall assembly, maybe. But I've never seen that happen. What I have seen, though, is the surface temperature of the heaters, like the ones with metal grates, and they've got the felt wrapped over the top. The felt doesn't just stick there by itself. You don't have like a piece of metal and then put felt on it with holes cut out, and it just magically static clings to the thing. So usually they use what's called a double contact adhesive made by a company like 3M. It's a spray adhesive or something like that. So they would spray the heater guard, then they would spray the felt. You let that tack up and dry a little bit, then you wrap it and trim it. Those glues do become pliable again. That's not a structural wood glue. That is a contact adhesive. And typically you wear a respirator when you're putting it on because it has a strong odor. I've had them and you can smell it. We have no way to ice, like when you take a VOC meter in there, it's not like it's not like it has a sniffer. You can't just stick it up in front of the heater guard and see we're getting a high reading. There's no way to isolate and say, well, it's absolutely that. I mean, I actually, that's not true. I think about that. You could take those things out of there and then retest it, I suppose. I tend to avoid those things, or at least, mark it whenever we see it and say, hey, there may be a compromise or something in one of these units if you decide you want to go with this. But just like you asked about the corner saunas, there's a compromise in the heater layout in a corner sauna. Just like there's a compromise in heat loss for an all-glass front sauna. You have glass. Where the hell does the thing go? It's not insulative like wood is. So there's usually a compromise somewhere for a lot of these things. So that's some stuff that I would be cognizant of, or at least be aware that it can be present in certain brands and models, but probably not dictate. That's not like top priority that dictates whether the thing works or not. One of the things that, does dictate whether the sauna is going to work, because if you're going to spend 3 hours a week in this thing, you'd better be getting some return on that time investment that you spend in there, right? One of the things that I see people not catching on to is temperature ranges in the control panel readouts. I thought by now people would read between the lines a little more, but they're not. I could pose it as a question to you or to the audience, actually. How is it possible that one particular sauna brand has a control panel that takes their infrared sauna up to 165 degrees Fahrenheit? And another sauna, the control panel maxes out at 140. And people immediately think that one is better than another because a readout on a screen says 165. It must be better. This is a little short-sighted. I don't understand how the industry hasn't caught up yet. But you're talking about a readout on a little control panel that's at the top of your thing, based on a little steel probe that's in the top of the sauna. At the very, it's measuring the heat from 1 inch below the ceiling, which is drastically different than the heat where your core and where the majority of your body is. So you get so wrapped up in this temperature thing that you can't absolutely visualize, fathom, understand How could somebody be sweating more in one sauna that tops out at 140 than another sauna that reads 165? How come no one is paying attention to, sometimes the number on the screen is a little bit arbitrary. It's not indicative of what's happening with the hyperthermic response of the body. So we go back to the fundamentals. What is hyperthermic response? In a traditional sauna, you're in like a 6x6 room with a big heater over there. Air is notoriously a bad conductor of heat, yes? So they pour water on the rocks, introduce humidity, lolly. All of a sudden, you have a much better conductor of heat. But they also recommend you sit on an upper bench. Why? Because you want to take advantage of that heat rising. Same place they put all these probes to measure, the readouts on the screen. Well, it doesn't always make a difference what's going on up there. What matters is what's going on and what the body is subjected to. So when you look at hyperthermic response, when you look at what's causing increased circulation, what's causing the body to upregulate heart rate, what's causing the trigger or the signal to be like, oh my God, we need to start cooling ourselves, aka sweating. The fundamental part of that is having this response or this heat delivered to a good portion of the body to make that happen quicker. So regardless of what some little probe produces on a readout, now we're looking at, well, it's not just the temperature that's causing this. It's the finished sauna heater is not 6 feet away from us.
Yeah.
We're not relying on increased humidity to increase the heat transfer to the body, just working off of convection. If you are, then you're working on a principle of temperature matters, right? Of course it makes a difference because that's all you have to work with. There's some convection in the infrared sauna, but you also have direct heat transfer. So people are missing this part. We just say heater layout because it's commonplace to us. But the reality is a majority of the internal enclosure of the sauna is covered with heaters. So you have the surface temperature of the entire thing rising in unison. Usually, like in a traditional Finnish sauna, people don't think that you get infrared out of it. A wood burner, you absolutely get infrared out of the steel, thing. But it's going to take an hour or two to produce it. And then you're waiting for the wood and everything else to heat up in there. Well, same principle. If you have good heater layout, aka the design of the damn thing, right? You're going to experience a quicker or more well-rounded hyperthermic response in less time, regardless of what is showing on the screen. This is why everybody is mad at me because I don't like, the Costco sauna or this or that or Life Pro this, and they sell out of them and they're not delivering on. Okay, but when you use the thing, one of them has blue zones on the FLIR gun and one of them doesn't. When I get out of one of them, I look at my lower half and I'm like, where's the sweat? The other one I get out, I'm like, whoa, that worked pretty good and it's 60 degrees in here. Why? This big long explanation that we just went through is exactly why. So I'm not sure when the industry is going to catch up, but when we test saunas, like you could read me whatever bullet points you want from a fancy brochure. It's got this blended supercalifragilistic combo, wavelength, emissivity, micron range, all this stuff. But when you get out of the damn thing, if you don't have a good sweat session, you're wasting your time. Have you ever noticed that when we're filming, sometimes I'm sweating?
I'm sweating sometimes.
The door's open. The temperature on the screen isn't saying anything. It's just above room temperature. Yeah. So how the hell am I sweating? Radiant heat is hitting the tissues rather than just convection. If you're in a 6x6 room and you got a big traditional sauna heater over there, you've got to heat the space until the heat can affect you enough. If you open the door, all that escapes. You get nothing. With the radiant heat, infrared, far infrared specifically, even if the door is open and the heat is escaping, you're still getting stimulation from the heat that's close to the body, or at least surrounding the body. So if you start stripping that away, regardless of what temperature is, you have a performance difference or degradation. So if you're looking for information that will actually work for you, check out the YouTube channel, 700 videos on the channel on sauna, detox, health and wellness protocols. Also have the Facebook group. There's 40,000 group members in there. Tons of info, feedback that's not even my own, which is a great thing for most people. And between those two things, you're bound to find something that is exactly what you need. We'll see you in the next one.